Good morning, dear Dharma friends. How lovely are you to come. It's been a long day already over here. Welcome to Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for being here today, Jim. Well, we have a couple of hours to be in the company of each other, sitting around the campfire of the Dharma. There are some folks here I don't recognize, and welcome aboard if this is the first time or even if it's not. I always have a secret little wish inside. You know, for many years, many decades actually, on the first Sunday of the month, I've been doing a 1-hour introduction between 9 and 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings. And the numbers have varied from 3 to 20. And I always have secretly in the back of my mind that 1-hour meeting will change the person's life radically. That they will...
Recording in progress.
Thanks, Jim. That they will be one of those like myself who finally find their home, their spiritual path. And it's such a relief to finally find one's path. So this is the way of the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, an ordinary human being just like us who walked the earth a brief time ago, 2,600 years. I mean, in planetary time, it's nothing. Even in human time, it's nothing, really. It's the last 0.02% of the time that humans have walked the earth with this brain that the Buddha came along, 0.02. We spent a long time in small hunting and gathering bands of 50 or less, just barely getting by, and with the eldest among us being 30 or 40 at the very outside. But we have the opportunity to pass culture along, and for better or for worse, I suppose. So, the way of the Buddha. This lineage comes through Lady Sayadaw and U Ba Khin. And, I think I'll share this poem. I was sharing it with a friend yesterday. It's one of mine. It's written on a plane. I'd been for a few days at the New Orleans Jazz Festival with my wife, Jennifer. And then I was coming home. We got up in the morning. We went across town in a taxi. I got out. We had a brief kiss. I got back in, went to the airport, and then flew away. And several hours later, somewhere west of Kansas City, I remember, I went to the restroom, and then I came back from there. And this poem came to me at the time. People sleep, watch videos, play games on screens, and sip at wine. Flying west over snow-covered mountains, a chasm opened, or perhaps just revealed itself with a taxi goodbye kiss. That moment of looking away, one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here and then not here. It's that simple. Those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. The stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now, or not at all. People sleep, watch videos, play games on screens, and sip at wine. Flying west over snow-covered mountains, a chasm opened, or perhaps just revealed itself with a taxi goodbye kiss. That moment of looking away, one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here, and then not here. It's that simple. Those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. The stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now, or not at all. That reminds me of a friend and mentor, Don Nickerson, who is 95 years old. And I'm going to call him this afternoon. I'd like to go visit again. It's been several weeks. For many years, when we have met, we've always traded a poem, usually one that we wrote ourselves. His last poem, this is 5-6 months ago, and he is slowly losing it into dementia now. But his last poem went like this. He set it up really well. He said, "Are you ready?" "Yes." "Okay." And then he went silent for a long time, and I thought, I wonder whether he forgot. And then he said, "Here, not here." Here, not here. Don Nickerson. It was he who 40 years ago said I should do a private practice of mindfulness meditation. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge in being awake. does that mean? Well, one thing it means is I aspire to awaken from the wandering minds. The endless or seemingly endless trance states that we can fall into. And then there's awakeness, there's knowing of those thoughts. How do we do that? I don't think anybody has the least idea. But we can create the conditions for it happening. I take refuge in the Dharma, in the teachings, in the path, beautifully articulated path. But that too isn't really the Dharma. The Dharma is what is. I take refuge in life as it is. And I take refuge in the Sangha. We're on this journey very alone and together. So it's good to have company. It's also good to remember that there's been company for a long time. For 2,600 years at least. There's always been many people at every moment of the way practicing, awakening. And of course, that's just in this tradition. There are many lineages of awakening, because this awakening is quite natural to humans. It's something that wants to happen. So let's do the great, simple, traditional practice of sitting here. Let us notice that in fact there is a body sitting here, and that it's alive. And how do we know it's alive? It is. Awareness receives life. There's the livingness of the fingers. The tingling, vibrating aliveness of fingers. There's the livingness of knees and shins and calves and toes and feet. There's the livingness of what we call the face. And there's the breath. And the breath has a beginning. It comes out of nowhere. It rises to fullness. It declines, and then it vanishes. And of course, there is the thought-generating mind, which loves to think. It likes to create a past with memories and a future with plans and hopes and fears. There must have been some strong natural selection for this to have lasted. But happiness does not lie in the wandering mind. Freedom doesn't lie in an unobserved wandering mind. It's actually a kind of prison. And so let us soften back into that space in which the wandering mind happens. Let us soften back into the awareness, the field of awareness, in which the five hindrances can blossom and disappear. And so we sit comfortably, noticing any discomforts that arise in the body, noticing thoughts, noticing also the mood or emotions that are present. And we can use the sensations of breathing, coming and going, as a sort of anchor or home base. There's a beautiful teaching from Ajahn Chah. Incredibly simple. Whenever you want to bring your practice into perfect balance, simply remember, it's like this. This moment is like this. And then we're relieved from having to have it be different. Maybe this is a moment when the mind is really quiet, when concentration is in the ascendant and the wandering mind is next to vanished. Maybe that sweet, delicious peace that comes with that is present. Or maybe there's a lot of restlessness or agitation or worry. Maybe the neurotic mind is in full blossom. Or maybe you've experienced a loss or a betrayal or sickness or something that's agitating. It's a fool's errand to try to get rid of that. It will go away. Everything does, but before then, as soon as the mind gives up resistance to the object, the suffering goes away. Maybe this is a moment when there's disliking. Ooh, I hate how my body feels, or this mood is really unbearable, or this anxiety is terrible, or this pain in my back is bad. Disliking, aversion, very natural state. But what if we simply stopped trying to get rid of it? Oh, it's aversion. Is this aversion me or mine, or is it just aversion? Same with sloth and torpor, sleepy dullness. Same with doubt, despair, dispiritedness. The present moment, this moment is like this. What if it's really true? That love would mean I accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. And that would mean that there's nothing to improve. It doesn't mean that things couldn't improve, that we couldn't make behavioral changes and so on. But that what's needed for awakening is an effortless effort. It's the effort of love, of mindfulness. I intend to be right here, right now, whenever I can. As mindfulness becomes more prevalent in the mind, and it's accompanied by curiosity and tranquility, equanimity, persistence, and concentration, a sort of quiet joy that isn't dependent on the outside world sometimes comes into being. It's an ease and contentment born out of accepting things exactly as they are. If we wish to increase the concentration, maybe the mind's a little restless, we simply add 1% effort, an imagination of effort, to be with the beginning of the breath. To notice the chest and abdomen rising and rising and rising. to notice the moment when the transition occurs, and then to be present all the way to the completion of the breath. There's no tension involved. Acknowledging this moment. There may not be much happening. The mind could be quite quiet, or it could be very busy. However it is, that's how the moment is.
Just fine.
This is Pete Castleberry. He is the superintendent of the project at PIMC and a really fine guy. We had a situation last week where I was informed that we needed to move the play structure, and I asked how much they would charge to move it, and they said between $600 and $800 because it takes time. And so I sent out an all-points bulletin and was gathering my team together. And then an email came from Pete and said, forget it, I moved it. He got some of the guys and just did it as a gift to us. Oops. Hang on, come back. Then this is the back porch. And this is the upgoing ramp from the street, and then a person in a wheelchair would come around here and go up there. And this was actually 2 days ago. They've come along a lot further than this. Oh, here we are. We have a little movie of the guys doing their work. Everything's done very precisely. It's cool. Oops, enough of that one. Stop. Go. Here's Pete putting up a new rain. This is the rain gutter, which is coming into right where they were working. So we have a temporary rain gutter that comes over the top here now. And this is from the Dharma. This is the hole into the Dharma hall, and the door ultimately. And here's the ramp going down. And there's, as of Thursday afternoon, there will be lots of slats going up and down here, and also another railing at wheelchair height. I think that's it. Yep, that's all. So let's get rid of this. Photos close. And bring Facebook and YouTube back to live. There we are. So it's been a long time coming, and it's happening. They say they expect their part, they call it substantial completion, by December 15th. My guess is we won't open till January because we'll have a lot to do ourselves. There will be lots of opportunities to come and brush shoulders and be on work parties together. Play parties, karma yoga parties. If you look in the chat, I put 2 links in there, and I put 1 link. The link which is the invitation to share of your financial excess, if you have any, with PIMC, to have the delight of this, to have the delight of generosity. Whenever I think, making an ask like this, whenever I reflect on it, I always get a certain joy. It's in my chest, actually, and a sense of, oh boy, I'm doing the work of asking for you to have the opportunity to give to yourself, to give to the greater you, to the next person who walks through the door, or who finds PIMC on the web. This mission is really of utmost importance. There's nothing more important on the planet. So it potentiates all good works. And then there's also just a mention in the chat that Candle Summers is teaching on Sunday night at 6:30, her first and third Sundays of the month. Is there something else I should mention, Jim?
I don't believe so.
All right. I will invite you to stick around for the movement with Jim, mindful conscious movement. And then I've been reflecting a lot on the second foundation of mindfulness to speak about today, the foundation of Vedana, or feeling, and how crucial it is that we learn to practice with that. So I'll be back, and Jim, you have the helm, my matey.
Okay, thank you very much.
What a nice sweater.
That's my PIMC sweater. I used to wear this once a month during the winter when we gathered together.
It's really pretty. All right, I'm going to go quiet here.
Thank you. So, standing and knowing it. So if we're going to investigate feeling in a Dharma talk, we might investigate feeling in a standing. How does it feel to be standing here now? Most of the time, away from the practice of Dharma, my body's kind of tense and braced against the onslaught of all sorts of stimulation in our modern world. But when I remember, I can just pause and sink and notice that feeling of being rushed, being offended, and being in a hurry, and worried about the future, and resentful about the past, and just pause, feel the body release all those defenses. What effort does it take to stand up? If we play with the standing form and move left and right, we can get a tangible reminder of all the different muscles that are cooperating to provide us with balance, the uprightness. Uprightness begins in our scan with the feet. Is there a nice even sense of pressure along the bottoms of the feet, or is there excessive? When we're in a hurry, then there's a lot of energy into the toes and the first in the front of the foot, and we got to get there, Or if we really don't want to go, there's the feeling of holding back and anticipating something irritating, challenging, too much weight in the heels. But if we're just standing and we pause to let the feeling of balance come into the soles of the feet, and then again move to the side, move to the other side, and feel how much better it feels for the muscles and tendons to shift and move and stretch. Holding steady in one place doesn't the same feeling as moving. So we deliberately create a rhythm. It's an antidote to all the defensiveness and the urgency and deliberate preparation for the next moment that runs through our muscles and nerves. And here the nerves only have to keep track of one thing. When do I want to stop? When do I want to turn back? The nerves know how to go just far enough. It's not uncomfortable, off balance, just right to the edge. There it is. It feels like this when I stay in this natural window of movement. The toes and the heels are still working together in harmony. I'm not leaning forward, I'm not leaning back. It's just a nice, easy rhythm. And what I was going to work with today was an imaginary scenario where someone that I'm eating dinner with, my partner, your friend, your child, and the other person says, "Pass that bowl of fruit, please." If you're working with a child, it helps to add that little lubrication there. But anyway, please pass that bowl of fruit. We reach for the bowl of fruit, and I'm going to turn my body and reach over to one side, and then in my imagination pick up that bowl of fruit, grip it, lift it, move across the space towards my partner, and then lower it and release it so it's in a comfortable place for my partner to enjoy the fruit. So let's take the other hand and reach across and grip, lift, and carry it through space, and then release the position, but don't release the bowl. Lower the bowl and then release. Got to get my verbal cues right. Reaching across, pinching, lifting, moving through space, lowering the hand in space, and releasing. Again, reach, pinch, rise, carry, lower, release. So what does it take to get my hand across to reach? The spine and the shoulder has to release and cooperate with this operation. So while the hand is moving through space, the body's turning and twisting, reaching. There's sensations in the shoulders, sensations in the spine, sensations in the fingers, in the elbow, the wrist, lowering. So it feels like this, to reach, rise, carry through space, across, lower in space, and release. There's this cooperation. Again, in this position, turning and bracing with one leg when we set things down, reaching, bracing on that same leg, come up. There's sensations in the leg as it releases, as we move through space. There's sensations in the other leg as we transfer the weight. The difference between the two feet and legs are very different. Release, reach, lift. Can we be awake to the change, to the impermanence? We let go of this position in order to flow into this position. We have to let go of that meant to release and then start again on the other side. Reach. We have to let go of the reaching in order to lift. We have to let go of the lifting in order to move across. Everything is impermanent. But the impermanence turns out to be a gift for our partner because the bowl of fruit is nice and handy. It's a gift to release. Releasing feels like this, moving across. Releasing feels like this, lowering, opening the hand, reaching across. Impermanence. No clinging. The generous gesture is characterized by no clinging all the way through. And it sets up the next moment of intention, be generous, intention to move, intention to release. And the body knows how to sustain just the right amount of effort to be able to pause and enjoy this letting go, this letting go. Little tiny pauses to appreciate letting go with awareness. Nothing heedless. Mindful generosity. Moving a little bowl of fruit. Bringing delight to another person we're in relationship with. Aware of the relationship. Aware of the body. Aware of the feelings. In order to do this together with common intention, we have to be aware of thoughts. This is lowering. This is releasing the grip. This is reaching. The word operationalizes or helps operationalize the intention. And then the common intention strengthens mindfulness, equanimity, harmony, tranquility, the pausing, the slowing things down with careful insight into this, and then this, and then this. Every impermanent moment is a portal to deeper and deeper awareness. And in the service of a generous gesture, a certain kind of preparation for deeper loving kindness, deeper compassion, deeper connection to the people we're in relationship with. The insight makes every aspect of it brighter and more beautiful. It has depth. Okay, let's sink a little more, lower in space. The hands move higher in space. They come almost together above the crown of the head and then release. So by cooperating into a gesture, the body brings itself relief and release away from the stationary, stuck, clinging to my space. It's our space, all the way around. Every muscle, every nerve is cooperating for a gesture of circular gathering, lifting, pausing to notice, lifting. The pausing doesn't have to be in the hands, it's in the awareness. Pausing to see the lowering, and then the feeling of when all these muscles can stretch gently with just the right amount of effort. It feels like this to open the shoulder sockets. It feels like this to release. Feels like this to surrender to gravity. The arms just hanging from the shoulders. The intention to make another circle, opening, like this, till we reach the position above the crown and then release down. Like this. And then this. And now. And then a complete pause for the arms. We don't really pause with the breath, not too long. There's movement. There's a slight effort to release the thirst for air. There's a slight effort to release the feeling of fullness. Each moment motivated by this feeling, thirst for air. Need to release. Rhythmically. Okay, let's bring our hands together in gratitude. We have another chance to step into the in the in the listening mode. We've done mindful movement. Now we're ready for the next chapter. Thank you very much. I'm going to be doing this on the 20th of November. At least that's the plan. We'll see what happens. November 20th from 9 to 1. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Sunday. And some of you I'll see this week, Monday through Friday, online.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
My pleasure.
Jim? Oh, you can. Good. Okay. Back to this view. I want view of the gallery. All right. There we go. Now. Put that there. I'm just doing a little reorganizing here. Whew. Come on. All right. So there's that and then that. All right. I have a cup of tea. Real tea. There is a mistake made in America. There's several mistakes made in America about tea. One is that in a restaurant, they bring you a cup of sort of warm water with a tea bag on the side, and then you're supposed to put your tea in and make tea. Tea requires 212 degrees Fahrenheit, not 206, and certainly not 195. So that's the complaint of a Canadian who has emigrated to the United States. You understand, Sherry, don't you? It's difficult to get a decent cup of tea. And this is PG Tips, which is serious English tea. All right. It's bracing, which is right. The suffering in my life. It's hard to get a good cup of tea. Oh dear. Well, here you are. Here we are. Thanks for staying and being interested. Without you, I don't get to play this role. And this is a role that has been incredibly nourishing to me over decades. Speaking about the Dharma, reflecting on it, having conversations about it, getting clearer, as clear as I can. What is mindfulness anyway? There's a definition that's been around for quite a long time in the West. Mindfulness is the capacity of being aware of what is happening inside us and around us in successive moments of consciousness. There's a little experiment with mindfulness that I like to do, which goes like this. I'm going to give you an instruction in a moment, And I'd like you to notice what happens when that instruction lands. Please become aware that you are seeing. Did you notice a change? A moment before, my guess is you weren't aware of seeing. Or I could say, please become aware of the life in your right hand. Or please allow awareness to open in the index finger of your left hand. So not only does this, suddenly there's the experience of the finger emerges, but there's also knowing that you're aware of that. Please become aware of the pressure of your buttocks against the chair. Please conjure up an image of your kitchen sink where you live and know that you're creating a fantasy, you're creating an image. How do you do that knowing business? Nobody has the least idea. But the Buddha discovered, another sip of tea, the Buddha discovered that developing that capacity of mindfulness is what leads us to freedom. It leads to the deathless. And it's something that most people don't even ever consider. I mean, without training, whoops, decline that. Let me turn this down. Disruption. Hang on, I'm a little jangled, just a little. How could it be that simply developing awareness is what sets us free? I have an hypothesis, which I think is true, which is that which we are is actually the awareness of the universe. That is what we are. We could also call it love. But we have a case of mistaken identity in which we take ownership for it, and we think, oh, this is mine, this is my awareness. Like we do, this is my body, even though it's on loan at best. So, the Buddha developed a way of systematically training this mindfulness. And I want to share a couple of diagrams, if I can get it to work. How will I do that over here? I'll do this, and I'll pull this down here. Okay. Oh, let me do one more fiddly thing, because that way I can maybe, here for you folks on YouTube and Facebook, I think this may well work for you as well. We'll see. Okay. So coming to share screen. Jim, do we have a shared screen?
Yes, it's fine.
Great, thank you. Music in the background. Thank you. So, let me check one more thing. Does this change or did it stay the same?
It opened up right.
Okay, great. So I want to go back here, close this. If I want to examine what am I? What am I really? I might kind of slice my experience up into categories and then investigate them carefully. And that's where the 4 foundations of mindfulness come from. The Pali The original texts, they're called the four gocharas, the four pastures of abiding. So these are realms of hanging out where we learn how to be there and be awake, to notice something very significant. And there's something that's really significant is, no matter what category I am examining, these three characteristics of existence will be there. Anicca, which means impermanence, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, dissatisfaction, and anatta, that there really is not an enduring self. And I simplify this with ADA. It's nice to have an acronym. So, if I want to find out who I am and what am I could break my experience up into these categories: body, feelings, and this is what I want to talk about today, but I'm giving you the context: body, feelings, mind, and mental phenomena. And this is a huge study. I'm just going to give you a glimpse here. With the body, we can be mindful of the breathing, the postures, the 32 parts of the body experienced as the elements: earth, air, fire, water, the various activities of the body, and the body in decay and dissolution. And we do a lot of that here, right? The foundational practice, mindfulness of breathing. And then we have feelings. I'm going to skip them for now. Well, no, let me just do a start. Feelings are not the emotions. It's a difficult word. It's actually Vedana, Vedana. Feelings come in three particular flavors or categories. There are those that are pleasant. They are moreish. We want more. There are those that are unpleasant, and those that are neutral or indeterminate. And I'll come back here in a minute. And then, of course, when we're meditating, we discover that there's mind. And we can notice a mind which is greedy or non-greedy, or hateful or non-hateful, ignorant or discerning. There's all these ways that the mind is. And we can learn to observe them rather objectively. And we notice ultimately that they are all anicca, dukkha, anatta, bit by bit. And then mental phenomena is a giant category, which includes the 5 hindrances, the 7 enlightenment factors, the 4 noble truths, the 6 sense bases, the 5 aggregates, which is basically human experience. Now, please don't be overwhelmed. This is the map for someone who wants to really examine the nature of the thing, of the mind, of the human experience, and really wants to know all the parts. We don't need to know more than, I'm going to get rid of this for a minute. We don't really need to know anything but what's happening here in the present moment. And in fact, this reminds me of something I wanted to say about this. Get back here. Get back. There. There's a story of 2 brothers that the first time I heard it, I think I heard it on my first retreat. There's a story of 2 brothers from the time of the Buddha, and one of them heard the Buddha give a talk on dependent origination. And dependent origination can be a very complex topic. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. And one of the brothers was listening to this, and he got it. It was like, oh, I see. And boom, he had a profound awakening experience. I'm going to mute you, Jim. There we go. The second brother was not the one. The first brother went to Harvard. And then he went to Yale, and then he really developed his intellect this is all before he met the Buddha. He could think. But the second brother never did any of that. He finished high school, but he became someone who was really good with his hands. You know the story. And he went to the Buddha and said, I'm going to quit because I'm never going to understand this. It's just I can hardly follow the beginning of the talk. All these categories, and the Buddha said, don't you worry. Don't worry at all. Come back here tomorrow morning. Come early, and I'll give you a practice specifically for you tomorrow. And he came back, and the Buddha had a flower, and he said, here, take this. And your meditation for today is watch this flower. When your mind wanders, come back to this flower all day till tonight. And he did that. And at some point during the afternoon, when the flower went, he got it. The spiritual eye opened, and he understood anicca, dukkha, anatta. So this map, I love this map, but if it doesn't appeal to you don't have to remember the details, but some details might be helpful. So I'm going to go back to it for another minute or so here. Okay, maybe I'll talk about it first. When we took birth as a mammal. And mammals make their way through life by tuning into certain frequencies of experience. And we have portholes. We have ways of sensing that are exactly what we needed to survive in the world that we've lived in. And they are the eye, which is sensitive to light, and which then creates seeing consciousness. So we have very, very acute seeing in certain ways. There's whole ranges of the electromagnetic spectrum we don't see at all. But the ones that we need to see, like where predators come from, or where our objects that we eat or mate with appear, we're very clear about that. So there's the eye, visual objects, and seeing consciousness. And seeing, we have peripheral vision too. I was watching some squirrels out in the trees this morning, and they were chasing each other. And they would disappear. And I would just soften and let the vision go soft. And then there'd be movement high up in the tree. Our vision is really good at that. It notices change, which is part of survival. Then there's this drum in the ear, which picks up incredibly sensitive sounds, vibration sounds. I mean, if you think of it, just now there's a plane. I interpret perception, it makes a plane out of it. There's vibrations coming off those motors up there right now, or that whooshing thing through the air. They're traveling down here through the sheetrock and everything, and they're hitting this ear, and they're hitting with sufficient energy to make something happen in the inner ear, and those little hairs are vibrating, and then hearing consciousness is coming up. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's incredibly sensitive and damageable. An interesting thing about hearing that most people don't know is, you can try this, is that we don't hear up and down very well. If someone walked into the room behind you or beside you and snapped their fingers, you could point at them within a degree or two. That's also been very essential for survival, because we have to know where the predator's coming from. And one could say, what's all this emphasis on predators? Remember this, that for 99.96% of our time on the planet, we lived in small hunting and gathering bands of 50 or less, and we were the prey a lot. So those of us that could tell right there, that's where the threat is, we managed to pass on our DNA. If we didn't have that, we didn't make it. The next time you're at PIMC, I encourage you to notice when you're sitting in the Dharma hall, where's the speaker? Where's the loudspeaker? It's right above the place that I sit, or whoever's teaching. It's on 3 heavy chains. I checked them myself. It is heavy. It's several hundred pounds, that speaker. We purchased it specifically for that hall, and it goes to the back wall, like 6 feet up, and the sides, and it's focused there. But you can't tell that. Then it's what they do in churches or halls like that. If you put it above the speaker, no one will ever notice that the sound isn't coming from the speaker's mouth. But if you put it off to the side, you'll notice, because we have 2 ears and binaural hearing. Probably more than you want us to know. Then there's the nose, which is sensitive to chemicals, particles. And it's pretty darn sensitive. Nothing like a dog, right? Apparently, some dogs have sense of smell, they say, 10,000 times more acute than ours. I mean, how do you make sense of that? But whatever the case, we get some very interesting, useful information about the world from our sense of smell. A little factoid here. Back in my youth, I worked in Geneva, Switzerland, in a lab for a year, trying to grow baby lymphocytes from pregnant women, so they didn't have to do amniocentesis. Anyway, we were using all kinds of toxic agents to try to see, can we kill the mother cells and keep the babies alive? One of the toxic agents was putrescine. And putrescine is the essence of rotten meat. The tiniest drop of putrescine would make that lab almost uninhabitable. It was just, and the sense of smell and disgust, because that's a powerful thing that we've been conditioned in with, that if that's happening, get away. So there's aversion to that. Similarly, a nice perfume might pull one the other way. There's the sense of taste, which is not much to it. I mean, sweet, sour, umami, the MSG taste. We can stimulate the mouth in certain ways. It's nothing like scent, which requires the traveling of particles or chemicals over the nose, the nasal membranes. And then we have the feeling body, the sensing body. And maybe take a moment to touch yourself and notice contact. Maybe stroke your hand, or maybe take a moment to stroke your cheek. Stroke it in a very loving way, pleasant. And then maybe pinch yourself a little bit. And notice that it's unpleasant. And it's unpleasant, and there's like, I want less of that, please. And then finally, there's another sense door, which is the mind. And the mind has its experience with mind objects. Thoughts, feelings, memories, emotions. The past and future exist only in the mind. So I have a diagram of this, which is kind of fun. I'll just see if I can pull it up for a minute. I'm not going to do this for the Facebook crowd. Here we go. So here we have an articulation of it. We have the eye, and then there are visual objects. And visible light, the electromagnetic spectrum with a visible light, is sensed by the eye, or sensed by consciousness through the eye. Then there's the ear, which has auditory objects. There's the mind, which has the universe, thoughts, perceptions, memories, images. There's the body, which has contact and feeling. And then there's the tongue, which has taste objects, and the nose, which has olfactory objects. Now, I'm kind of belaboring this, but why? I'm being dominated internally by a memory. If you may be able to believe it. I was pretty shy in high school and college. I mean, I was out there, but lots of shyness. And when I was in college, there was this perfume that a few of the young women wore. It was called Estee Lauder Youth Dew. I don't know if it still exists. And I used to sit 2 rows back. I never, ever spoke to this woman or 2 or 3 of them over the years. But I would just get close enough to that scent because it was so heavenly. It was so pleasant. And it had a powerful impact on me. At that point in my life, I certainly didn't have the capacity of noticing, sense door knows, pleasant, fantasy image, something about closeness, safety, that was completely not in my repertoire. I did know enough to not be rude or intrusive or anything. But that sense door is extremely potent. Hence, there's the whole world of perfumes, not by accident, and deodorants, and it's because scent has a profound impact on us. And part of what I want to get to in this presentation today is it really behooves us to learn to observe the sense doors because we are driven by them. Now, coming back to mammals. Wind. My children grew up. We had a live-in grandmother. I met my first wife, mother of my kids, and her mother at the same moment. And we lived together for 17 years. Till I left. And I remained good friends with Joan until she died. She heated with a wood stove. She had a Fisher, a really good, high-quality wood stove. And so we had toddlers. And we decided, and I think she thought of this, she said, we need to teach them about the stove. And so when they were toddling-ish, she built a fire, and it was not a hot fire. It wasn't a fire that's going to sizzle your hand, but it was a fire that was warm enough that you could feel it. And then we did it, and the children were 3.5 years apart. We let each of them touch the hot stove. And they touched the stove, and then they cried, and they never went near the stove again. One-time learning, very safe. So what's going on there? They learned that that warmth close to the stove, that it's a very pleasant feeling, but to touch the stove is something that has an unpleasant Vedana. Now let me define that term, Vedana. Vedana is the term for this second foundation of mindfulness. There's the body, Vedana, mind and mental objects. Vedana is the experience that we have when the sense door is fired. This object, this experience, is either pleasant, I want more, unpleasant, I want less, or not yet decided, kind of neutral. As we're sitting here, I would propose we're all experiencing lots of sensations, like your clothing against your body, for instance. It doesn't create much impulse, does it? Well, there it is. I'm having a little itch in the middle of I got an itchy spot in my back. It's commonly there right now. It's unpleasant. There's an impulse to scratch it. So this experience of pleasant and unpleasant, wanting and not wanting, is what drives us through life. And it's essential that it does because hunger, for instance, is unpleasant. Hunger's unpleasant, and then a scent arises. Oh, that's toast cooking in the kitchen. Or, oh, that's vaporized animal fat, which for the vegans among us, that's probably not very attractive. However, for human beings, through time, that's a scent that really pulled us, because there's the calories that will keep me warm through the night. So, there's a sign in the driveway at Wat Pah Nanachat, which is the monastery for Westerners. I could find that. I think I know where I could find that. I won't do it right now, but it's a green sign. It's about this big. It's in the parking lot. When you enter Wat Pah Nanachat, you drive in, and then there's a loop, and the loop goes around the cremation site, at which there's at least 3 or 4 cremations a week. It's bricks, and there's a hole that goes to the ground. You can see through it, and there are iron bars across. And the people from Ubon Lachatani come, and they bring their dead person, and they put them on the metal thing, and then they build a fire underneath and above, and then there's a cremation. But in that parking lot, there's a sign. It's just green, and it has Thai script on the top, and then at the bottom, and then it says Achan Cha. And it says, if you haven't begun to practice with feelings, if you're not practicing with feelings, you haven't begun to practice. So why would Achan Cha make such a definitive statement? So it's one thing, and a wonderful thing, to practice mindfulness of breathing. And similarly, mindfulness of movement, of walking, mindfulness of hearing. What about this feeling thing? If we don't have mindfulness of the feelings, of the pleasant and unpleasant valence of feelings, we act on them. I had a really clear experience recently, very recently, of the actual context doesn't matter, but I was in a conversation with someone, and they wanted something diametrically opposite to what I wanted. And in that particular relationship, I am used to getting my way. And I felt this thing start coming up, which was, this is unpleasant, and damn it. And then I realized, actually, the only sensible thing to do in this context is let go. And the feeling of anger, opposition, whatever that was, simply vanished. Very good that I was mindful of that and knew it. So there's a key point I want to see if I can get to. There are so many unpleasant experiences in life. Have you noticed? And there are so many pleasant experiences in life. And there are countless experiences which are not yet decided. One of the things that we do, and we do this particularly clearly in sitting meditation, is we take a vow of sorts, and we say, essentially, I'm going to sit here no matter what happens. Fire in the house, screaming child. I mean, there's a few things that should take us off our meditation seat. I remember saying to my kids one morning, if you're bleeding or if there's a fire, come and get me. Otherwise, stay on your cartoons. So I'm going to sit here. And no matter what happens, I intend to sit here and watch whatever it is and then watch it arise and pass away. I'm going to notice that it is anicca, dukkha, anatta. And to do this, I'm going to have a primary object. I'm going to use the mindfulness of breathing as my home base. And then what happens? Particularly at the beginning, I fail miserably. Right? Can hardly discover just how out of control the mind is. So I fail miserably. Failing doesn't feel good. It's an unpleasant experience. But I've made a vow, I'm going to sit here no matter what happens. So this is mental phenomena occurring which are unpleasant. But instead of quitting, I stay and I open toward it. Or how about this? I sit here and and then thoughts of let's say I have a loved one who's sick. Or maybe the mind is ruminating in anger about something somebody said or did. Or maybe I watched the news and somehow or another I got poked. And so there's fulminating going on about that. These are unpleasant mental states. With mindfulness of feeling, one can notice, this is unpleasant. These are unpleasant mental states. They are not me. They are not mine. They are anicca, dukkha, anatta. Let's say a pleasant state comes along in meditation. Maybe you fall into really a sweet reverie, or maybe concentration builds up and your body becomes all kind of tingly, and it's very useful to notice that as this is pleasant. There's a certain kind of objectivity. This is a pleasant state. It's just a state. What we tend to do and want to do is to say, finally I learned how to meditate. Now I've got it, and this is it. But we miss the boat completely, because this is insight meditation. This is not pleasure-seeking meditation. It's the capacity to notice and this interplay of pleasant and unpleasant, pleasant and unpleasant. I was talking with a dear friend recently who's been quite sick. Lots of symptomatic, ugly, unpleasant behavior in the body. And so we got to talking about, how do you meditate when you're sick? Well, you turn toward the symptom, and the symptom sucks. It's unpleasant. And we create a self around disliking it. But if we turn toward it and here's this aching, here's this pneumonia, here's this coughing that's happening, and then here's these thoughts of, no, maybe I'm gonna get sicker, and maybe I'll die, and then we notice those thoughts, and we notice those thoughts not just as thoughts, but as thoughts with an unpleasant valence. And so there's a quality of, what's the word? A quality of equanimity develops, and increasingly and over time, we learn to bear the unbearable. Now, we also learn to really enjoy the pleasant. I think it was Achan Semedo. Yeah, I heard he did this, used this for a Dharma talk on a retreat. It's a William Blake poem. He who binds to himself a joy doth the winged life destroy. He who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. She who binds to herself a joy doth the winged life destroy. She who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. And I guess to cover more of the bases, they who bind to themselves a joy doth the winged life destroy. They who kiss the joy as it flies live, it makes me teary, in eternity's sunrise. This isn't a teaching that says don't experience joy. Quite the contrary. But let's notice the arising, the causes of the arising of joy, and then the parting of it, just like the arising of sadness, the arising of depression. So Vedana is something that we can practice with very easily. Just now, I'm having an itch right here in the top of my forehead. It is unpleasant. I could do this, no big deal, or I could leave it alone and observe unpleasant Vedana. Here's a fun one. When you're practicing and you're in mosquito country, but not malaria mosquito country, and not Zika, Zika virus, whatever. If you know the mosquitoes are most probably not carrying a deadly illness, then let them bite. I had a mosquito come one time. Right on my nose. Now that's close. And she did her little thing with her legs, and then they have 10 different cutting tools on the end of that schnoz they have. And then so I watched as she dug away, and then it turned all red, and then she leapt off and flew away to make her babies. That was a great experience. There wasn't much suffering. Partly because it was on retreat and there was lots of concentration. But it was so interesting. The body makes something like that into an emergency. It's like, oh God, there's a mosquito. And really, it's nothing. So Vedana. We can do it with body sensations. We can do it with moods. It's so interesting to watch moods and impatience, for instance. So I think I want to stop there to maybe let a person or two maybe ask a question or share something. Yeah, we have a few more minutes. So what do you think? Does this seem useful?
Hey, Robert. It's KB.
It's KB. Hi, KB.
Hi. I have a question. And this may be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
I'm sorry, no potentially stupid questions are allowed. Next person.
Yes. Can you please talk to me about the difference between noticing something you're going through and opening up to something you're going through? Because I have been in a period of depression lately that I'm working myself out of. And I don't see the value of going into depression and sitting in it. And I guess I just would like you to talk a little bit more about that, because I know something you've been through too.
Terrain I know well. So, I'm going to speak as a person when I was deeply in depression. And I shouldn't say deeply. Anyway. Pretty depressed. I've gotten up this morning. I've gone to my meditation seat. And there's this story of depression running. This is awful and that's awful and I feel bad. And then I think of that as indulging it, being in it, not doing much about it. Then I go to my meditation seat. I take a comfortable upright posture, maybe a little more upright than usual. And then there's, okay, here I am. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. There's an experience happening here that I name depression. What is it really? What do I feel in the body? What are the thoughts? What's the mood? What does the mood want to do with posture? So there's an objectification of the symptoms of depression rather than being in the depression. And I discovered that I could find my way to a place that was not depressed, but was aware of depression. That which knows was not depressed. It did not, however, who knows what it did, but in that period that long period when I was depressed a lot, I would nap between clients. I'd be so tired all the time and just feel desperately bad, and So it didn't help much with that, but it did give me a break. I'd sit for an hour and not be depressed for an hour. And it was then that I discovered, at a certain point, I took antidepressants for almost a decade. And that was very helpful. And then I was able to do some of the therapy work I needed to do so that depressive mood and stuff stopped happening. But that's the difference, I think, between being in depression and objectively observing depression as symptoms. Also, another symptom was that heaviness in the head, that's a sense of bleh. And that's very difficult to observe. However, once you observe it, it becomes obvious. That's not me. That's a phenomenon. So what am I? Well, it seems that I am that which knows this phenomenon. And it's an unpleasant phenomenon. And that, I think, is refuge in the Buddha.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Hello, Robert. Hi, everyone.
Hello,
Can you hear me?
Trina.
Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Great. I have a follow-up question to this topic about depression. Because as you're sharing it, what's coming to my mind is, would you consider depression as a strong clinging to the 5 aggregates?
When one is identified with it, it would be a clinging, sure.
Because what would be on the other side?
What would be the other side?
Mm-hmm.
I guess non-clinging. It would be, well, there's depression, but that's not, it's not of much importance to me. But that's, one needs to be careful with something like depression, because people can so easily think that it's something you can just turn off. You know, if I did myself better, I wouldn't be depressed. And sometimes depression is organic. I mean, it comes right out of the body, medication-based. Did that approach what you were asking?
I wasn't looking for a specific answer. I was just wanting to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think the answer to is it part of clinging to the aggregates? Yes, because it's about a self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a new seeing of the skandhas, and in the way that it's described as just heaps of clinging. And it really brought a new light of seeing what that is, and how to interpret it.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
Well, we have reached noon. Does anyone have anything you'd like to share? Anybody else? Well, let's sing our way out of here. I love that phrase. Let's sing our way out of here. Let's do that chant which has to do, may all beings receive all blessings. Ready? Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Sabe Mangalam Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam Sadhu 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 Yay. Goodbye, dear friends. Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you, Robert.
Aren't we lucky? Such good fortune. My goodness.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert and Jim.
All right. See you soon. See you tomorrow morning.